What if the strongest woman in the room is the one who says the least? Not because she has nothing to say, but because she has learned something most people never do. That real power doesn't shout, it waits. It doesn't need applause, and it never begs to be noticed. It builds itself quietly, in the private moments when a woman picks wisdom over a quick reaction, self-control over raw emotion, and her own respect over a few seconds of comfort. Society trains people to crave attention, to chase likes, to perform for approval. But genuine strength grows somewhere else entirely. In stillness, in clear thinking, in a character that doesn't bend depending on who's watching. A woman who understands this knows that every choice she makes right now is quietly writing the story of who she'll be years from now. She knows peace beats drama every time. She knows a life with purpose outlasts a life built for popularity. And she knows that discipline, even without natural talent, will always beat talent that has no direction. Today, we're breaking down 7 timeless principles that build unshakable inner strength, sharp emotional control, and confidence that doesn't crack under pressure. These aren't manipulation tactics designed to control the people around you. They're internal shifts that transform who you are from the inside out. Here's something worth sitting with. Most of life's toughest battles aren't fought against other people. They're fought inside your own head. Every single day, uninvited feelings show up on your doorstep. Anger, disappointment, fear, envy, loneliness, thrill, pride. Each one knocks and demands your full attention. A woman who has done the inner work understands one crucial thing. Feelings are completely normal, but they should never be allowed to run the show. She trains herself to watch her emotions rather than obey them on command. She's learned that reacting on impulse almost always costs her something, while responding with a clear head almost always builds her up. There's a common myth floating around that emotional strength means shutting feelings off completely, becoming numb, untouchable. That's simply not true. Real emotional strength isn't the absence of feeling. It's staying aware while you're feeling it. You're allowed to be hurt without turning bitter. You're allowed to be furious without lashing out and causing damage. You're allowed to feel scared without letting that fear make your decisions for you. That one distinction changes absolutely everything about how you move through the world. Picture this. Someone criticizes you, and it's not even fair. Your gut reaction is to defend yourself instantly, to fire back. Your emotions are demanding justice right this second. Sharp words, a cutting comeback, some kind of emotional payback. But wisdom asks a completely different question before you open your mouth. Will this reaction actually make my life better? Or is it just going to feed my ego for a moment before I regret it? A woman who has mastered this pauses. She knows full well that words spoken in anger can never truly be unsaid once they're out there. And here's where people get it backwards. Silence often gets mistaken for weakness. In reality, staying quiet can be one of the most powerful displays of self-control a person can show. Not every opinion thrown your way deserves a response. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding needs you to explain yourself. Once your inner world feels steady, you stop feeling the need to win every single argument that comes your way. Your peace of mind becomes worth more to you than proving somebody else wrong on the internet or in the room. Here's the truth nobody wants to admit. People who can't control their emotions become incredibly easy to manipulate. They react exactly how everyone expects them to, like clockwork. One small insult and their entire day is ruined. A single rejection and suddenly their confidence is in pieces. One moment of criticism and they start questioning everything about who they are. Without even realizing it, they've handed the remote control of their emotional state straight over to other people. A woman who understands her own worth refuses to give that power away. She knows, deep down, that her emotional balance belongs to her and her alone. Nobody else gets to hold that steering wheel. So where does this kind of discipline actually start? It starts with simply noticing. Before you can ever change how you react, you first have to catch yourself in the act of reacting. Pay attention to what happens in your body the moment anger shows up. Notice how your breathing shifts the second anxiety creeps in. Watch the stories your mind starts inventing the instant fear takes the wheel. This small habit of noticing creates a gap, a little bit of breathing room between you and whatever you're feeling. Instead of telling yourself, I am angry, try shifting the language to anger is present right now. That tiny change in wording is powerful. It reminds you that emotions are just experiences passing through, not permanent parts of your identity. The modern world, frankly, is working against you on this one. Everything about it pushes people toward impulsive reactions. Social media rewards whoever responds the fastest and the loudest. Arguments spread online faster than any thoughtful conversation ever could. Outrage gets more views than wisdom ever will. But getting attention isn't the same thing as having strength. Real strength is often invisible precisely because it chooses patience over putting on a show. And patience isn't some passive, do-nothing state. It's active. It's a form of self-mastery. It simply means giving yourself enough space to respond from a place of wisdom instead of raw instinct. Think about how many regrets could have been avoided if people just paused before reacting. So many broken relationships, ruined reputations, and painful decisions started with one single moment where someone let their emotions take the wheel completely unchecked. Here's a mindset shift worth adopting. Emotions are temporary visitors, nothing more. Happiness arrives, and eventually it leaves. Sadness shows up, and eventually it passes. Fear knocks on the door, and eventually it moves on. Excitement bursts in, and eventually it fades too. If you build permanent, life-altering decisions on top of feelings that are only passing through, you're setting yourself up for unnecessary pain down the road. Instead, the wiser move is to let those emotions settle before deciding what to do next. Think of muddy water left completely untouched. Given enough stillness, it clears up on its own. Your mind works exactly the same way. Self-respect is built through emotional consistency, plain and simple. People naturally start trusting those who stay calm under pressure, because that calmness signals something deeper, real inner stability. Confidence isn't measured by volume or how loudly someone talks. It's measured by how peaceful someone remains when things get genuinely difficult. Anyone can look confident when life is going smoothly and everything's working out. But true confidence only reveals itself in uncertainty, in the moments that actually test you. And here's something that's hard to accept, but important to know. There will always be people who misunderstand you. Some will project their own insecurities and fears onto you. Others will criticize decisions they don't even fully understand. If you try to control what every single person thinks about you, your emotional energy will run dry fast. A woman who values herself accepts that she cannot manage other people's opinions, so she stops trying. Instead, she puts that same energy into managing her own character, which is the only thing she ever truly had control over in the first place. Now let's talk about something people misunderstand constantly: forgiveness. Many believe forgiving someone means excusing what they did, letting them off the hook completely. That's not what it means at all. Forgiveness releases the emotional chains keeping you tied to old pain. Nothing more, nothing less. Carrying resentment around is like dragging a heavy stone with you everywhere you go, every single day. Eventually, that weight becomes your burden to carry, not theirs. Letting go isn't a gift you're giving to the person who hurt you. It's a gift you're giving to your own freedom. Emotional maturity also means taking ownership of your inner world instead of blaming everything outside yourself. Rather than pointing fingers at circumstances for every feeling that shows up, a wise woman asks herself a better question. What can I actually learn from this? Challenges stop being enemies and start becoming teachers. Failures stop being permanent labels and start becoming lessons. Every hard experience, when looked at the right way, becomes a chance to build deeper resilience. And here's something worth noticing. The strongest people are often the gentlest ones. That's not a coincidence. They no longer need to prove their strength through aggression or force. Their confidence is rooted in self-awareness, not in dominating others. They understand something most people miss. Control over other people is temporary and unstable, but control over yourself creates freedom that lasts a lifetime. When emotional discipline becomes second nature, everything downstream improves. Your decisions get sharper. Your relationships get healthier. The way you communicate gets calmer. Your confidence gets quieter, but somehow stronger at the same time. You stop reacting to every little distraction that crosses your path and start responding based on your actual values instead. Your peace stops depending on whether circumstances are favorable, because now it's built from the inside out, not from outside conditions lining up perfectly. Every single day hands you countless chances to practice this. Every annoyance becomes training. Every disagreement becomes practice. Every disappointment becomes one more opportunity to strengthen your foundation. Instead of asking why difficult emotions keep showing up, start asking how they might be shaping a wiser version of you. Over time, you'll start noticing that situations which used to wreck your entire day no longer carry that same power over you, because your inner world has grown stronger than the chaos happening around it. Now let's shift to something equally important. Protecting your peace isn't about cutting people out or avoiding everyone. It's about protecting the quality of your mind. So many people believe peace is something they'll stumble into later. Once life gets easier, once everyone finally treats them right, once every problem magically disappears. But life has never once promised a world free of conflict, and it never will. Real peace comes from learning exactly what deserves access to your energy and what absolutely does not. A woman who values herself understands that every single person she lets into her life shapes her thoughts, her emotions, her habits, and eventually her entire future. So she becomes intentional about who gets her time, because she knows time isn't just valuable. Time is life itself, and you don't get it back. Here's a powerful way to think about it. The strongest walls people build aren't around their houses. They're built around their values. Boundaries are invisible walls that protect your emotional well-being, your self-respect, and your sense of purpose. They're not punishments handed out to other people. They're acts of responsibility you owe to yourself. So many women hesitate to set boundaries because they're terrified of disappointing someone. They worry that saying no will make them look selfish or cold. But here's the flip side nobody talks about enough. Constantly saying yes to everyone else usually means constantly saying no to yourself. Every time you push your own needs aside just to meet someone else's expectations, you're quietly teaching your own mind that your peace matters less than their approval. And slowly, resentment builds in the background without you even noticing. You end up emotionally drained, not because people are asking too much of you, but because you never learned where to draw your own line in the first place. A woman who understands her own value learns something important. Kindness without boundaries eventually turns into self-neglect. And there will always be people out there who ask for more than they've earned. Some will expect endless access to your time and attention. Others will drain your emotional energy through constant negativity, always finding something to complain about. Some only show up when they need something from you and vanish the moment you need support in return. If you never set limits with these people, the pattern just keeps repeating, because people naturally take up whatever space you allow them to occupy. Nothing more, nothing less. Here's something important to understand. Boundaries aren't built through anger or shouting matches. They're built through clarity. You don't need to raise your voice to protect your own peace. You don't need a long, detailed explanation to justify every decision you make. Calm confidence will always beat an emotional argument. Sometimes the simplest sentence carries the most weight. Something as short as, "That doesn't work for me," says everything that needs to be said. A woman who respects herself understands she doesn't owe anyone a lengthy justification for choosing her own peace. There's also a common mix-up worth clearing up. People confuse boundaries with building walls around their heart. Walls shut everyone out completely. Boundaries do something different. They let the right people in while keeping harmful behavior at a distance. That difference matters a lot. A wise woman stays compassionate, generous, and loving, but she refuses to tolerate disrespect dressed up as friendship, manipulation dressed up as love, or control dressed up as concern for her well-being. Pay attention to how people react once you start protecting your peace. The ones who genuinely care about you will respect your limits, even if it takes them a little time to adjust. But the ones who benefited from you having zero boundaries, they'll likely get frustrated. They might even accuse you of changing. And honestly, they'd be right. You are changing. You're becoming someone who values inner stability over constant approval from everyone around her. Not every relationship in your life deserves unlimited access to you. Some people only know how to stir up drama. They thrive on conflict, gossip, and emotional chaos, almost like it's their fuel. After every conversation with them, you walk away mentally exhausted, drained for no clear reason. Their negativity spreads because emotions are contagious. They pass from one person to the next, whether you invite them to or not. A woman who's paying attention notices exactly how different people affect her inner state. She asks herself a simple question. Does this person inspire growth, or do they just create confusion and noise? Protecting your peace also means protecting your attention, which might be even harder in today's world. Modern life is aggressively competing for your focus at every turn. Endless notifications, constant comparisons on social media, pointless online debates, non-stop distractions. They all quietly chip away at your mental energy without you even noticing it happening. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you have, because whatever consistently gets your attention eventually shapes your entire mind. A disciplined woman doesn't let every single notification hijack her thoughts. She understands that distraction weakens clarity, plain and simple. Instead of reacting to every message the second it arrives, she carves out quiet moments where her own thoughts get louder than the world's endless demands. And it's in those quiet moments that real wisdom actually starts to grow. Learning to say no is one of the greatest forms of self-respect a person can practice. Every no you give protects a more meaningful yes somewhere down the line. When you turn down unhealthy relationships, you make room for healthier ones to enter. When you refuse pointless obligations, you free up time for real personal growth. When you reject emotional manipulation, you strengthen your own confidence brick by brick. Every healthy boundary you set is really an investment in the life you're building for your future self. There are moments in life when protecting your peace means you have to walk away completely, and this is almost never easy. Leaving familiar environments, unhealthy friendships, or one-sided relationships often hurts because the heart naturally resists change, even change that's good for you. But staying somewhere your spirit keeps getting wounded over and over does far more damage than the temporary discomfort of letting go ever could. Walking away isn't always a defeat. Sometimes it's actually the highest form of wisdom a person can show. You can't force people to respect you. You can't convince every single person to understand your worth. You can't fix or heal people who refuse to change on their own. But what you can control is whether you keep exposing yourself to environments that slowly chip away at your confidence, day after day. Peace also depends heavily on the conversations happening inside your own head. External boundaries become nearly impossible to hold if your internal boundaries are weak to begin with. If your own mind is constantly criticizing you, doubting you, and replaying every mistake you've ever made, then no outside protection is ever going to feel complete or enough. A woman who values herself becomes aware of her own inner dialogue. She refuses to become her own worst enemy. Instead, she builds the habit of talking to herself with honesty, patience, and encouragement, the same way she'd talk to someone she genuinely cared about. Another boundary worth mentioning involves expectations. So many people suffer simply because they expect everyone around them to think, act, and love exactly the way they do. Reality almost never works out that way. Emotional freedom really begins the moment you let go of unrealistic expectations and start accepting people for who they consistently show themselves to be, not who you wish they were. And accepting someone doesn't mean approving of their behavior. It simply means seeing reality clearly instead of wishing it were something different than what it actually is. Your energy is precious and it's limited. Every single day you wake up with a certain amount of emotional, mental, and physical strength available to you. Where you choose to invest that energy determines the entire quality of your life. If it's constantly being spent solving unnecessary conflicts, trying to please impossible people, and carrying burdens that were never yours to carry in the first place, there's very little left over for your own purpose and growth. Protecting your peace isn't a single decision you make once. It's a lifestyle you commit to daily. Every conversation, every commitment, every relationship, and every habit either strengthens your inner world or quietly weakens it. Small choices, repeated consistently over time, become the foundation of a genuinely peaceful life. Something remarkable starts happening once this becomes your habit. You stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself when it's necessary. You become far less affected by criticism because your self-worth no longer hinges on outside opinions swinging one way or another. Your relationships actually improve because they're built on mutual respect instead of silent resentment simmering underneath the surface. Your confidence grows because every healthy boundary reminds you that your well-being genuinely matters. And the quieter your inner world becomes, the clearer your decisions become too. Your presence starts to naturally inspire respect without you ever have to demand it from anyone. Now let's talk about discipline, because it's often completely misunderstood. Most people think of discipline as restriction, as something that limits freedom. In reality, it's one of the greatest forms of freedom that exists. So many people spend their entire lives following whatever they happen to feel in any given moment. If they feel motivated, they work. If they feel tired, they stop completely. If they feel excited, they start something brand new. If they feel discouraged, they quit altogether. Their emotions become the captain steering their entire life, constantly changing direction with every passing mood. A woman who understands herself knows that feelings are temporary, but the consequences of her choices can last for years, sometimes decades. She chooses discipline because she values her future more than the comfort of this exact present moment. The easiest path is rarely the most rewarding one, and comfort has a sneaky way of convincing people there will always be another tomorrow, another opportunity, another chance to finally become better. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into years, and suddenly people realize they've spent more time making excuses than making actual progress. Discipline protects you from this slow, quiet drift into mediocrity. It reminds you that every small action matters, even the ones nobody else ever sees. A woman who has built this into her life doesn't wait around until she feels inspired before she takes action. She understands that motivation is unpredictable. Some mornings you wake up full of energy. Other mornings, every single task feels impossibly heavy. If your success depends entirely on motivation showing up, your progress will always be inconsistent at best. Discipline removes that uncertainty completely. It teaches you to act simply because it's necessary, not because it happens to feel easy in the moment. Picture a river flowing steadily toward the ocean. It doesn't stop just because rocks appear in its path. It doesn't turn around because the journey gets harder along the way. It just keeps moving, adapting constantly, but never abandoning its direction. Discipline works exactly the same way. Obstacles aren't signals telling you to quit. They're opportunities to build persistence. And here's a trap a lot of people fall into. They believe discipline requires perfection, that missing even one day means total failure. That kind of thinking often causes people to give up entirely after one slip. A disciplined woman understands something better. Consistency matters far more than perfection ever will. Missing one workout doesn't destroy a healthy lifestyle. One mistake doesn't erase months of real progress. One difficult day doesn't define your entire future. She simply returns to her routine without wasting energy on guilt or beating herself up over it. Temporary feelings can be incredibly convincing. They whisper comforting little lies. They tell you to rest when you should actually get started. They tell you to spend money when you should be saving it. They tell you to snap back in anger when staying silent would serve you far better. They promise instant satisfaction while quietly hiding the long-term cost. Discipline listens to these feelings carefully, but it refuses to obey every single impulse that shows up. There's a real difference between pleasure and fulfillment worth understanding. Pleasure is instant. Fulfillment builds slowly over time. Eating unhealthy food might feel good for a few minutes, but caring for your health builds strength that lasts for years. Avoiding a hard conversation might feel comfortable today, but honest communication is what builds relationships you can actually trust. Spending without thinking might create a quick burst of excitement, but financial discipline builds lasting security instead. A woman who knows herself learns to tell the difference between what feels good right now and what actually serves her future self. Every disciplined habit strengthens your identity a little more. You start trusting yourself because your actions finally match your intentions. Self-confidence isn't built by repeating positive affirmations in a mirror every morning. It grows each time you actually keep a promise you made to yourself. Every completed task, every healthy decision, every honored commitment quietly tells your mind, I can rely on myself. And that inner trust becomes far stronger than any compliment someone else could ever give you. One of the biggest dangers in life is letting emotions make your most important decisions for you. Anger might push you to end relationships that actually mattered. Fear might stop you from chasing opportunities that could have changed everything. Laziness might convince you to keep postponing your dreams until they quietly disappear altogether. Discipline creates a pause between the emotion and the action. And it's inside that pause that wisdom finally gets a chance to speak up. Daily routines might look ordinary from the outside, but they quietly shape extraordinary lives on the inside. Waking up with